At the wedding venue, Liam Carter left abruptly after receiving a text from the one that got away. I gritted my teeth and dialed my arch-nemesis. Marry me. I'll do whatever you say after we're married. A low chuckle came from the other end. Don't come crying when you regret it. I'd just proposed to Ethan Pierce, at my own wedding to another man. I hadn't expected Ethan to drive a hard bargain right then. Who's to say you're not just using me to save face? You'll dump me the second this mess blows over. Glancing at the restless guests below the stage, I bit down hard. I'll obey you in everything after we're married. Through the phone, I heard him huff a quiet laugh. His tone was lazy, unhurried and cool. Sit tight. I'm coming to turn the tables for you. Ethan wasn't exaggerating. His arrival didn't just win me one round, it turned the entire day around. Everyone knew Ethan Pierce was the one that got away for Liam's own one that got away. And his net worth was in a completely different league from Liam's. What I hadn't expected was how fast he'd show up. Less than 5 minutes after I hung up, he appeared before me in a crisp white suit. As he walked toward me, the entire banquet hall fell into dead silence, then erupted into absolute chaos. Like a match dropped into gasoline, anyone would have thought he was the original groom. Noticing my shock, Ethan lifted an eyebrow challengingly. What? Stunned by how good I look, the words slipped out before I could stop them. How did you get here so fast? I was already planning to crash the wedding and steal you away. I rolled my eyes. I didn't buy a word of it. The rest of the ceremony went smoothly. The MC gave his speech. We exchanged rings until he said, "You may now kiss the bride." I took an unconscious step back. My reaction darkened his gaze. He slid an arm around my waist and looked down at me. That carefree, cynical glint in his eyes. Amelia, you can still back out now. I braced myself and met his stare. Who says I regret it? Good. His expression was lazy, but there was a challenge in his bright, sharp eyes. Then kiss me. I stood on my tiptoes, tilted my chin up, and leaned slowly toward his lips. That was when I noticed how perfectly shaped his lips were, probably tired of waiting. Ethan huffed a soft laugh. The next second, he leaned down and pressed his warm lips to mine. We were so close I could smell the crisp pine scent of his cologne. His warm, large hand cupped the back of my head, amusement dancing in his eyes. Happy wedding day, Mrs. Pierce. I'd actually married my arch-nemesis, the same man I'd once sworn I'd rather marry a pig than. After the wedding, Ethan drove me to a standalone villa. I tilted my head up to look at him. Is this our new house? Ethan unclicked his seatbelt. If you don't like it, we can move somewhere else. If you hate the decor, you can redo it however you want. What I'd actually meant to ask was, are we going to live together? The place looked newly renovated. By some coincidence, it was exactly the minimalist, elegant style I loved. Even the color scheme was the warm palette I preferred. I'd always heard most men preferred dark, cool grays. I glanced over at Ethan. For a split second, I almost wondered if his line about crashing the wedding to steal me away had been the truth. I shook my head quickly. I must be losing my mind. Ethan led me up to the master bedroom on the second floor. He pulled a men's dress shirt from the walk-in closet and handed it to me. Shower and get some sleep. Wear this for now. With that, he turned to leave. Aren't you staying here tonight? I asked. He glanced back. We can talk about that after you've rested and gotten your energy back. I'd spent so long going toe-a-toe with him that I couldn't let him get the upper hand now. I lifted my chin. I've got plenty of energy. Ethan turned around, unbuttoning his shirt as he walked slowly toward me. You sure about that? Absolutely. He chuckled. Good. He pulled off his shirt and tossed it aside. He had an incredible body, solid abs, every line of him brimming with strength. I swallowed hard without meaning to. Honestly, I'd never been this close to a grown man's body before, even just his upper half. Ethan's eyes darkened. The next thing I knew, he'd lifted me and tossed me gently onto the soft bed. He looked like a predator coiled to strike. I'd never been in this situation before. Fear pricked at me instinctively, and I put my hands on his chest to push him away. Ethan looked down at my hands pressed against his chest, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. Regretting it already, he huffed a low laugh, rolled off the bed, bent to pick up his shirt, and headed for the door. Ethan, I called out. He turned back, his face neutral. Something else. Do you think I'm lying to you? Using you? What else would I think? I'm not. He gave a cool, non-committal hum. Sure. He turned and kept walking. I'll admit his indifference stung. I jumped off the bed and crossed the room in 3 strides. Crashing into his chest, I could feel his whole body jolt at the contact. I tilted my head up to look at him from his arms, deliberately putting a challenging glint in my eyes. Ethan Pierce, you really gonna skip out on your wedding night? He stared down at me. His gaze dark and unreadable. His Adam's apple bobbed once, and his voice came out rough. Too late to back out now. 18-year-old Ethan had been bright, handsome, bold and unruly. Back then, he'd brushed the dirt off my clothes and said, "Amy, being scared doesn't help. If someone bullies you, hit him back. It doesn't matter if you can't win, make it hurt, and they'll never mess with you again." After that, no one dared bully me anymore. Not because I'd fought back, but because Ethan was always right behind me. Looking back, that was probably the most peaceful our relationship ever was. When had things gone sour between us? Ethan's rough voice pulled me back, laced with annoyance. He tilted my chin up with one finger. "Amy, you're zoning out on our wedding night. Guess your husband isn't trying hard enough." With that, he bowed his head and captured my lips with his own. 28-year-old Ethan was all strength and heat. When it was over, he kissed the tears off my face, his tone half amused, half exasperated. "You gonna zone out on me again?" I sniffled and swatted at him. "You jerk." Ethan didn't get mad. He just lay down beside me, pulled me into his arms, and rubbed slow circles on my back. When I'd calmed down, he murmured in my ear, "For the record, first time I've ever been with a woman." I froze. I'd meant to tease him about it, but I was so exhausted I could barely keep my eyes open. Before I knew it, I'd drifted off to sleep. When I woke up the next morning, the bed was empty, the bedroom door opened, and Ethan walked in, already dressed in a sharp suit. A smile tugged at his eyes when he saw me sitting there dazed. "You're up. I made breakfast. Go wash up and come downstairs." As he spoke, he pulled a small suitcase out of the closet. "Where are you going?" "Business trip. Something came up at the branch office last minute. I have to go handle it." He set the suitcase down, came to the bed, and knelt one knee on the mattress. He brushed a hand over my forehead. "You gonna be okay on your own today?" I swatted his hand away, putting on a tough front. "Who do you think you're talking down to? Like I have time to follow you around. I've got a ton of work today too." Ethan nodded. "Good." He pulled me out of bed. "Come on, breakfast first." I hopped off the bed, and his gaze dropped darkly to the neckline of my shirt. I spun around, grabbed a pillow, and whacked him right in the face. "Ethan." He caught it easily with one hand, that half smirk on his face. "If I wasn't in a rush this morning, I'd make you pay for that." He leaned in close, his voice low. "I'll collect later." Jerk. The breakfast he'd made was simple: 2 fried eggs, 2 glasses of milk, and 2 ears of corn. For someone in a hurry, he'd still taken the time to cook. For some reason, a warm, strange feeling bloomed slowly in my chest. Maybe marrying Ethan Pierce wasn't such a terrible choice after all. After breakfast, Ethan left for his trip, and I headed into the office. I'd barely walked through the doors when I ran into Jenna Brooks. She dragged me straight into her office, shut the door behind her, and whispered, "Why are you even at work today?" I smiled. "Why wouldn't I be at work today?" Jenna rolled her eyes. "Don't play dumb. I was a bridesmaid yesterday. Remember? Amelia, you didn't swap grooms just to get back at Liam, did you?" "No," I said. "That's not why." Jenna let out a breath of relief. "Good. I figured you wouldn't have had time to check your phone last night. What with your wedding night and all, what's going on?" Jenna scoffed. "Liam and Vivian are top social media trends again. There are photos this time, theory foolin' hugging. They might as well just go public with the relationship already." I smiled. I didn't feel a single thing about it. Jenna kept ranting. "How can people be that shameless? Vivian's parents stole the company your parents left you, and now she's stealing your boyfriend. What kind of messed up family is that?" I smiled. "What they do has nothing to do with me anymore." Jenna nodded. "Damn right. The jerk and the homewrecker can back right off." "Hey, did you eat?" I picked up 2 baked sweet potatoes on the way in. She handed me one through the wrapper, grinning. "See how good I am to you. I know baked sweet potatoes are your favorite dessert, though honestly, first time I ever heard of sweet potato being a dessert." I took the sweet potato from her. It was still warm, The first time I'd heard someone call sweet potato a dessert, it had been Ethan. I'd only just been brought back to the Grant family household back then, except by then the house no longer belonged to the Grants, it belonged to the Reeds. I knew my aunt and uncle were terrified I'd come back to claim the inheritance my parents had left me, but for appearance's sake, they had to take me in, but taking me in was just for show. What happened behind closed doors, no one knew. Once, some kids cornered me on the way home from school and bullied me. I got back late, and there wasn't a single bite of food left for me. I didn't even dare sneak into the kitchen to get something to eat. My aunt and uncle had told me it was a Reed family rule. No food after dinner hours. I knew it was just an excuse to make me miserable. They wanted me to run away on my own so they could say I was the ungrateful one who left. Not that they'd refuse to take care of me. Back then I was small, helpless, scared. There was nothing I could do but hide in a corner and cry. Ethan had climbed over the fence to find me. He'd tucked a freshly baked sweet potato inside his jacket, and when he pulled it out, his palms were bright red from the heat. He held the sweet potato out to me. I didn't want anyone to know my aunt and uncle were mistreating me. If they found out, they'd only make it worse. I shook my head. I already ate dinner. Ethan shoved it into my hands. Who said you didn't eat? Sweet potatoes dessert. After dinner dessert. Got it. It was the best baked sweet potato I'd ever had in my life. At the end of the workday, Jenna and I stepped off the elevator in the parking garage and there was Liam, leaning against my car. Jenna nudged me with her elbow. The nerve of him, showing up here. Jenna, you go on ahead. I said, I've got this. You sure you'll be okay by yourself? I nodded. At the sound of my voice, Liam turned slowly. His gaze was sharp as he looked at me. Amelia, I think you owe me an explanation for yesterday. Explanation. I couldn't help it. I laughed out loud. I'd underestimated how shameless he was. Making a false counter-accusation like that. What do you want me to explain? I said, how you left me alone at the altar in front of all our friends and family. Or how you and Vivian were all over the top trends last night. Basically going public. Liam, where do you get the nerve to demand an explanation from me? He probably hadn't expected the usually gentle me to be so sharp. His brows furrowed, and his voice was colder than I'd ever heard it. Amelia, how can you be so cruel? Vivian's your cousin. The online harassment drove her to slit her wrists. Do you have no sympathy at all? I smiled. She had time to text you first before she slit her wrists. Doesn't sound like she was that set on dying. Liam stared at me, horrified. When did you become so vicious? Right then, Ethan's low, angry voice cut in from behind me. Who the hell do you think you are? Calling my wife vicious? Get lost, and keep your trashy vibe away from her car. I turned and threw myself into Ethan's arms. The pine scent of him wrapped around me, steadying me. I looked over my shoulder at Liam. You heard him. My husband told you to leave. Liam's face shifted through a dozen shades, first dark with anger, then red with humiliation, ending up a furious, purplish crimson. His gaze locked on Ethan, and a flash of hatred crossed his eyes, but he schooled his features quickly, forcing his temper back under control. He gave me a cold look. Amelia, you're upset right now. We'll talk when you've calmed down. That waiting for me to calm down was just Liam's go-to move. Give the silent treatment and stonewall. He thought time would wear me down and make me cave. I'd never fought back before, but it was never because I'd caved. It was because I didn't care. Before I could speak, Ethan laughed sharply. My wife doesn't owe you a conversation. Get lost. With that, he slid an arm around my waist and walked me to the car. He shoved Liam roughly out of the way, giving him a look of pure disdain. Stay away from my wife. Liam stumbled back from the shove, but forced himself to hold in his anger to keep up his polite facade. Ethan bent to open the passenger door, one hand carefully shielding the top of my head as I got in. His voice was soft. Come on, babe. Hanging around people like him is bad luck. Watching Liam stand there humiliated in the rearview mirror put me in a great mood. Still staring, Ethan's dry voice came from beside me. What, you gonna miss him, since he'd just bailed me out? I decided to forgive and forget the jab. I smiled at him. I thought you were on a business trip. How'd you get back so fast? He gave an ambiguous little laugh. If I'd waited any longer, someone would have stolen my wife. For the sake of being honest about this marriage, I said. Ethan, You don't have to worry. I chose to marry you. I'm not going to get involved with any other man romantically. And I had no idea Liam was gonna show up just now. Ethan pulled into a parking spot on the side of the road. He turned to look at me, leaning in slightly. What are you gonna give me to make me believe that? I was caught off guard. No answer ready. Seeing my silence, he lifted an eyebrow and continued, perfectly matter of fact. I've got to protect my legal rights. After all, legal rights. What rights? Being legally married, official license and all. I blinked. And a question hit me. When you agreed to marry me yesterday, weren't you worried I'd already gotten a marriage license with Liam before the ceremony? Ethan didn't answer. He just tapped me lightly on the forehead. Silly girl. Fair enough. I had been silly. Silly enough to be won over by a single sweet potato. That baked sweet potato had made me slowly let my guard down around him. After that, Ethan walked to school and back with me every single day. We lived in a fancy neighborhood, but he never had a family driver take him anywhere. I didn't have a driver either. My aunt and uncle called it building independence. Funny how their precious daughter Vivian never needed to build independence. Every morning, Ethan waited outside my house on a little electric scooter. He'd gotten me a pink helmet, and every time he'd fasten it on my head himself, tap it twice, and grin. Hold on tight, Amy. At first I'd hated him calling me Amy. He'd ride the scooter fast, and when we crossed the bridge, the wind off the water would billow our school jackets out around us. The wind roared in our ears, but all I could hear was my own heart pounding. Still, I never dared put my hands on his waist. It felt like crossing some invisible, forbidden line. Ethan's laugh was carried away by the wind, but I still heard it. Amy suits you so much. Sounds just like a little crybaby. Thanks to Ethan, no one cornered me on the way home anymore. But slowly, rumors started spreading around school. At that sensitive, fragile age, any girl seen too close to a boy became gossip fodder, especially since Ethan and I went to and from school together every single day. And yet Ethan never talked to any other girl at school on his own. The rumors grew and grew, until they reached the teachers. Our homeroom teacher made us summon our parents to school. Ethan's parents were busy, so their family butler went instead, along with my aunt. I have no idea what the teacher said to them, but that night, my aunt burst into my room and slapped me hard across the face. She stared at me like I was her worst enemy, her face dark with rage. Amelia Grant, you're just like your mother, flirting with boys before you're even grown. Do you know Ethan and Vivian had a childhood arranged engagement? Have you no shame? Stealing your own cousin's future husband. I didn't care what she said about me, but I wouldn't let her talk about my mother that way. I bit back tears and said, "How dare you lie about my mom? She was nothing like that." My aunt sneered. She was exactly like that. If she hadn't snuck off to meet a man, you never would have gotten lost. And if your parents hadn't been out looking for you, your dad never would have crashed his car. I shoved her away, tears streaming down my face. You're lying. Mom wasn't meeting a man. Don't think I don't know the truth. Grandma's the one who killed them. I ran out of the house crying. Ethan lived next door. I ran to his house and rang the doorbell. It wasn't Ethan who answered. It was the family butler, Mr. Hale. He saw me and shook his head. Ethan's not home. I felt like someone drowning, clinging to the last lifeline I had. When will he be back? He shook his head again. I don't know. Mr. and Mrs. Pierce are very disappointed about all this. They might transfer him to another school. My legs wobbled. That last lifeline was about to snap. I turned to leave slowly, then stopped and looked back, desperate. Mr. Hale, did Ethan really have an arranged engagement with Vivian? The butler gave a weary smile. It was just a silly joke the grown-ups made once. This is modern times. Childhood engagements aren't a real thing anymore. So it had been real. I tried to force a smile. Looking back, it must have been a worse sight than crying. There was no such thing as a knight in shining armor. My world went dark all over again. A week later, Ethan showed up at school again. This time, we kept our distance, a tacit understanding between us. I didn't find out until the next day that he'd only come to finalize his transfer. That night there was a terrible storm. I heard Vivian screaming from her room next door, throwing a fit because she wanted to transfer schools too. Naturally, my aunt and uncle said no. The Pierce family had gone bankrupt. I didn't learn that until later. That's why his parents hadn't come to the school. They'd been busy dealing with the company collapsing. Vivian stormed out, slamming the door behind her. For some reason I can't explain. I set down my pen mid-problem set, walked to the window, and threw the curtains open. The rain had slowed a little. I saw a tall, straight figure standing outside the front gate. He held a black umbrella, looking up toward the house. The next second, the gate swung open, and someone came running out and threw themselves into his arms. It was Vivian. I yanked the curtains shut. That rain had put out every last spark of my girlhood crush. I went back to my desk and picked up my pen. I knew I had to get strong on my own. I still had revenge to take. And the people who'd hurt my family were still out there, living their lives scot-free. Ethan started the car again. "Wanna get dinner first?" I snapped out of my memories. "Let's stop by my apartment first. I need to pack some things." "Sure," he said. Ethan drove straight to my apartment building like he'd been there 100 times. It hit me then I'd never told him where I lived. "How do you know my address?" And he looked so comfortable there. This clearly wasn't his first time. He even knew exactly which building I was in. Ethan didn't explain. He just smirked, unclipped his seatbelt, and said cheerfully, "Come on, let's go up." I followed him. And when he pressed the floor button without hesitation, my eyes went wide. "Ethan Pierce, are you some kind of stalker?" He glanced back at me, mock offended. "Is that any way to talk about your husband? Then how do you know my address? And my exact floor?" He laughed and tapped my forehead again. "Told you. You're a silly girl." Ugh. Twice in one day he'd called me silly and tapped my head. Did I have no pride? I lived alone. So it was a one-bedroom apartment. I'd been so busy with wedding prep the past few days that the place was a little messy. I pushed Ethan back toward the door. "Wait out here." "Okay, I'll go pack." He took off his suit jacket and rolled up his sleeves. "Why? Is there something in there I'm not allowed to see?" "Not really." Ethan walked straight to the closet, glanced inside, and said dryly, "For a second I thought you had some guy's stuff in there you didn't want your husband to see." He ruffled my hair, grinning. "Good girl. Knew you wouldn't bring random guys home." I swatted his hand away and rolled my eyes. "You're so inappropriate." He laughed. "This is inappropriate. I think I need to show you what inappropriate really looks like." Ethan succeeded in making me cry again, right there in my apartment. When it was over, he pulled me close and kissed the corner of my mouth. Thoroughly satisfied. "Told you, your bed is way softer than mine." How badly I wanted to kick him off the bed. I hadn't expected Vivian to show up at my office. She marched straight in, staring down her nose at me. "I don't want Liam anymore. You can have him back, but you have to promise me you'll leave Ethan alone, right now." I picked up the intercom to my secretary. "Ms. Davis, please show Ms. Read out." Furious that I was dismissing her so easily. Vivian's perfectly made-up face twisted with anger. "Are you insane? This is my parents' company." I corrected her coolly. "This company belongs to the Grant family. I own 70% of the shares." Vivian shrieked. "Without my parents, this company would have collapsed years ago. What gives you the right to hold all those shares? They belong to my mom and dad. You ungrateful wretch, we never should have taken you out of that orphanage. We should have left you out there to rot." I tilted my chin up, gesturing vaguely at the ceiling. "There are security cameras in my office. High definition." A flicker of panic crossed her face, but she recovered quickly. "You're lying." I shrugged. "Believe what you want." Ms. Davis walked in just then, and I said to her, "In the future, don't let any Tom, Dick and Harry into my office without an appointment." Ms. Davis nodded slightly. "My apologies, Ms. Grant. It won't happen again." Vivian's jaw tightened, and she stared daggers at me. I smiled and pointed again at the camera behind her. "Fine, you win this round." Vivian snapped. "But Emiliano, you really think Ethan likes you? He only wants you for your company shares. This is nothing but a business marriage." I smiled. "Whether he likes me or not, I can't say. But I do know one thing, definitely doesn't like you." That set her off all over again. "Ms. Reed," Ms. Davis said, "if you don't leave now, I'll have to call security." I knew Vivian wasn't scared of security. She was scared the cameras were actually real. And for the record, they were real. You never knew who might wander into your office. Vivian had barely left when Liam showed up too. This time, Ms. Davis had her wits about her. He didn't have an appointment, so she refused to let him up. Liam had no choice but to stand outside the building and call me. Amelia, he said. Let's meet. The coffee shop across the street. We need to talk properly. Your precious one that got away just left, I said. If you've got time to waste on me, you should go run after her instead. Gone was his usual cocky tone. Amelia, I've been thinking a lot these past few days. I realized you're the one I really love. Come back to me. I laughed out loud. I was so exasperated. What made him think I'd just jump at his command? Had I been too gentle in the past, given him that kind of ego? Wow. I said, you really do love chasing people who don't want you back. Huh? Then I heard Liam say, Ethan, what are you doing here? I froze, hung up immediately, and rushed out of my office. The second I stepped off the elevator, I saw Ethan and Liam standing face to face. The air between them thick with tension. Ethan was taller, and years of working out had given him a broader, stronger build. Just physically, Liam was already outmatched. When they saw me coming, they both spoke at almost the exact same time. Amy, Amelia. I ignored Liam completely. Walked straight to Ethan, and asked, what are you doing here? Ethan held up his ID and paperwork, a frown on his face. Amy, did you forget we're supposed to go get our marriage license today? I quickly slipped my arm through his, grinning and patting my purse. Of course I didn't. I've got everything right here. My eagerness seemed to please him. The frown vanished, and a smile tugged at his eyes. Good. Come on, let's go make it official. Liam suddenly stepped in front of us, blocking our path. He stared at me, shocked and betrayed. You're getting a license with him. Ethan didn't say a word. He just shoved Liam aside, kept his arm around my waist, and kept walking. Ignore the lunatic, babe. Liam stumbled back, nearly falling. He caught himself and lunged forward to stop us, but security guards called by Jenna stepped in and held him back. Jenna was absolutely loving the front row seat to the drama. She looked at Liam with pure glee. First you cheat on my best friend with Vivian. Now she's married and you're crawling back. Have you got no self-respect? Liam's eyes blazed with rage, but the two guards had him pinned. He couldn't move an inch. Wait in line. Sign the papers. Take the photo. Get the stamp. Say the vows one after another. And just like that, Ethan and I had our marriage license. Outside the county clerk's office, I stared down at the marriage certificate in my hand. It all felt surreal, like a dream. Ethan plucked the certificate out of my hand, stuffed both copies inside his suit jacket, and grinned lazily. Safer with me. Why wouldn't it be safe with me? He tapped his chest, right where he'd tucked the papers. I'm the one who needs the security here. I had no words. When had this man gotten so shameless? Maybe it was because the license made him feel secure. He'd been even busier than he had been the first few days of our marriage. He left early and came home late every day. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, I'd feel myself being pulled into his arms. His skin still cool from coming in out of the dark. At first it had felt strange, but slowly I'd gotten used to it. Now I could curl up against him and fall asleep in seconds. Ethan kissed the top of my head. I'll have everything wrapped up this week. Next Monday, we leave for our honeymoon. I opened my eyes. In the dim lamplight, I could see his unfairly handsome face. I don't think I can go on a honeymoon right now. Why? Work keeping you busy. I've got the evidence, I said. Proof that my aunt and uncle have been embezzling from the company. What are you gonna do? Ethan asked. Send them to prison. I shook my head. When my mom married my dad, the Grant family hated her. They did everything they could to drive her away. They even set a man up to flirt with her, and had me kidnapped. That's how I got lost. My parents got in that car crash looking for me, but that was all Grandma's doing. My aunt and uncle didn't have a part in it. What they did was steal the inheritance my parents left me. Try to take it all for themselves. Grandma's already gone, died full of regret. If my aunt and uncle just step down and leave the company, I won't come down on them too hard. I'll let them walk away, in the dark. Ethan held me tighter. His voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. I'm here. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. A sense of peace I'd never known spread through my whole body. I hugged him back, nodding against his chest. Okay. I don't know how long I lay there, half asleep, when Ethan's voice came again from above me. Amy, the night before I moved away, I stood outside your house for hours. Why didn't you come out to see me? I froze, wide awake in an instant. The memory flashed through my mind. That night. Vivian running and throwing herself into Ethan's arms. Were you waiting for me that night? Ethan let go of my waist and cupped my face in both hands. Our eyes had adjusted to the dark by then. I could see the mix of exasperation and amusement on his face. Amy. You really are clueless. It was pouring rain. Who else would I be waiting for? I thought you were waiting for Vivian. Ethan actually laughed at that, sharp and surprised. Then something clicked. Wait, you never got the note I left you. I frowned, more confused than ever. What note? The day I came to finalize my transfer, he said. I didn't want to talk to you directly and make things worse for you at school. So I had someone slip a note into your math book. You didn't have a phone back then. It was the only way. Back in school, my aunt and uncle had refused to buy me a phone, saying the school didn't allow them. My first phone was one I'd bought myself in college, with money I'd earned tutoring. I never got it. I said, who did you ask to put it in my math book? Julian Moore. You didn't know Julian had a crush on Vivian. I had no idea. Ethan said, so you never saw the note. You never knew I stood outside your house half the night. I never saw the note. I admitted, I just thought you were waiting for Vivian, you know. Since you two had that childhood engagement and all. Ethan actually yelped and sat straight up in bed. What engagement? You can't go around saying things like that, bad for marital harmony. I laughed at how dramatic he was being. Why are you so worked up? My aunt told me. She said you and Vivian were promised to each other as kids. He was still fired up, like someone had thrown a bucket of mud on him. You believed her. Amy, are you actually that gullible? I patted his shoulder to calm him down. Relax. I didn't believe it at first, but then I asked Mr. Hale, your butler, and he said it was true too. He was lying. Ethan insisted. I never had any childhood engagement with anyone. Ask my parents. Let's call them right now. He reached for his phone. I hurried to stop him. It's so late. Don't wake them up. I believe you. Okay. He huffed and lay back down, yanking me into his arms again. I have to clear my name. This is serious. I snickered into his chest. I slept better that night than I had in years. I'd barely woken up the next morning when Ethan pressed his phone to my ear. I blinked, confused. It's my mom. A warm, laughing voice came through the line. Hi, Amelia. Did Ethan wake you up? I smiled. Good morning, Mom. No. He didn't. I always wake up around this time. She laughed. I'm so sorry your dad and I couldn't make the wedding, but we're planning another one for you two here in France. Everything's already set up. We're just waiting for you and Ethan to get here. I covered the phone and whispered. D to Ethan, is that what you've been so busy with lately? The wedding. He shrugged, looking casual. Half wedding, half work. Mrs. Pierce's voice came again. Ethan told me you thought he had a childhood engagement with Vivian. Let me clear that up right now. Absolutely not. Besides, we were never that close with your uncle's family. We barely knew them. I smiled. Guess I misunderstood Ethan. Then, it's all right, dear. All that matters is it's cleared up. Ethan's always been very particular about his reputation. Well, I won't keep you. Go have breakfast. We'll talk more when you get here. I smiled and nodded. Okay, bye, Mom. Bye, dear. After we hung up, Ethan lifted an eyebrow at me. See, told you I was innocent. I shook my head, half amused. You really didn't have to make an international call just to clear this up. Ethan looked genuinely offended. This is about my honor, about proving I'm a faithful man. How is that a small thing? Okay, fine, I said. Ethan, do you actually care about me? Or am I just imagining things? His ears went bright red. After a long moment, he gave a rough, quiet hum. Yeah. I laughed at how flustered he was. If you cared that much, why didn't you ever look for me after? Who says I didn't? He shot back. Sophomore year. My dad's investments tanked and the company went under. We had to sell the house and move back to his hometown. He had a small food factory there, his only shot at making a comeback. That's when I started learning how to run a business from him. 5 years later, we'd built everything back up. I went to your college to find you. And I saw you with Liam. At that, Ethan huffed a cold little laugh. Lucky for me. He turned out to be a jerk. gave me a second chance. Our company didn't even do data sharing services at first. I added that entire division just to have an excuse to work with you. Everyone says we're arch nemesis. That I steal all your deals. But be honest, have I ever actually stolen a single client from you? Every single project. I found some excuse to bring your company in on it. Did people really think Pierce Corp couldn't handle those jobs on our own? I thought about it. He was right. All these years, Ethan had only ever teased me about work. He'd never actually cost me anything. In fact, those little jabs had always felt more like advice, pointing out my mistakes, teaching me things I hadn't known. Ethan Pierce, I said. You're way more secretly scheming than I thought. Can't steal a wife without a little scheming. What if I'd actually gone through with marrying Liam that day? You wouldn't have. Vivian never would have let it happen. And I never would have let you marry him. I would have crashed that wedding no matter what. I had no words. He'd been telling the truth about crashing the wedding to steal me away. After that, Liam tried to contact me a few more times, but Ethan always shut him down. The last time, Ethan went straight for Carter Group on the business front. The Carter family couldn't take the pressure. Liam finally accepted reality and left me alone for good. As for my uncle's family, once I presented the evidence of their embezzlement, they had no choice but to step down from the company. They hated every second of it. But it was that or prison. The biggest surprise was Vivian. When she realized every trick in the book wouldn't get her close to Ethan, she set her sights on Liam instead, clinging to him for dear life. But Liam's mother was no pushover. She had 100 ways to make someone's life miserable, and she hated women like Vivian who'd worked in entertainment. No one knows exactly how Vivian crossed her, but Mrs. Carter went public with a statement. Vivian Red ruined my son's engagement. What? A homewrecker wants to marry into our family. Not in a million years. Just like that. Mrs. Carter had labeled Vivian a homewrecker for the whole world to see. And of course, Liam didn't even like Vivian anymore. Their messy on-again off-again drama stayed in the top social media trends for months afterward. None of it mattered to me anymore. Ethan and I had just stepped out of Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. In 2 days, we'd have our wedding, just the two of us, the way it was always meant to be. And after that, our honeymoon.